There we go. How's it going, everyone? It's Eli with Common Sense, and I hope you are having a fantastic week so far. Do you ever just get a package in the mail and forget that you actually ordered it? Like, it's been maybe a week or two and you're like, man, I forgot I ordered that. So I was super happy when I saw my box of the Lattafa Khamrah Qahwa arrive at my doorstep. So today we're gonna be looking at some of the notes, we're gonna look at the breakdown, how it smells on skin, and we're gonna see if it's actually worth picking up if you own the original Lattafa. So do we penny up and pay that pretty penny for it right now? Well, it's still kind of hard to find. Don't go anywhere and let's check it out. So if you've been in the fragrance community for a while, you have definitely heard great things about Lattafa's Khamrah because this is a wonderful, affordable kind of twist to the original by Kilian's Angel Share, which was a DNA that actually came out in 2020, so it's just a few years old. But like I said in one of my previous videos, once a fragrance DNA kind of takes the community by storm and it just sells like crazy, there's going to be a lot of companies who do their own twists, their own kind of clones of it. And Lattafa is no stranger. So Lattafa Khamrah is sort of a coconutty, kind of creamier take to that original by Kilian's Angel Share DNA. Now that DNA is absolutely timeless, and it is a fantastic kind of tonka, cognac, and slightly nutty, kind of warm, sweet gourmand men's fragrance that really just stands the test of time. But Lattafa's Khamrah is sort of a deviation of that original DNA, so they changed up some of the notes a little bit, made it a little bit more creamy, and I gotta say, it smells absolutely incredible. But today, we're gonna be looking at Lattafa Khamrah Qahwa, and that is technically a spin-off of a spin-off, a flanker of a flanker, if you will. So like the original Lattafa Khamrah, the presentation is absolutely stunning. You have a nice kind of brushed wood base to it that is nice. It stands on its own, and it just has a nice kind of height to it and a nice heft to it. So it doesn't feel like the bottle is gonna be going anywhere when it's shipping. On the top, you have that very classic Lattafa logo, and it's in that same kind of gold. And on the back, you have the holographic sticker that shows you that it is indeed genuine. I have yet to personally come across a fake of a Middle Eastern fragrance, a twist, but hey, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And the moment you are all waiting for, look at that bottle. So like the last one, it shares that kind of whiskey glass, but this one is more of a cube as opposed to the original by Kilian's kind of spherical one. The little ribbed areas on the side glass and on the cap look a little bit different than the last one, but they still share that same kind of design idea. And if you're curious what the little plaque behind the bottle looks like, that's what it looks like. So my particular bottle was manufactured in November of 2023, so right off the press, right off of the assembly line. One thing I really appreciate, I think they fixed this sort of issue with the cap being absolutely impossible to pull off. I think you're actually supposed to twist it off. That's the easiest way to kind of pull it off. And if you actually look at my original bottle, yeah, look, it's impossible. You have to really tug at it. But the harder that you actually pull on this, the actual collar starts rising up, and it can actually start leaking off the top. So I think they fixed that with this one. The little bump that holds the cap on is a little bit thinner, and so it's not going to be as impossible to pull off. So gotta give them props to that. Oh boy, let's give this a spray. Whew. All right, so that's actually quite relieving because I was a little scared that this was going to be the exact same thing as the original Lattafa Khamrah because people online were saying it's very close just with a little bit of coffee. So we're gonna give it some time and we're gonna see how it smells. So Lattafa Khamrah Qahwa has top notes of ginger, cinnamon, and cardamom with middle notes of praline, candied fruits, and white flowers with base notes of coffee, tonka, musk, benzoin, and vanilla. So right off the top, the ginger and the cardamom definitely leap off of my skin and off the tester. It just smells absolutely nice, and it just has a nice kind of warmth that's radiating from it, especially from that cinnamon as well. I think the opening is a little bit more fresh than the original Lattafa Khamrah. It feels like the cinnamon and the spices are a little bit more turned up, so it's got a little bit more of a spice than the original, but it still has a little bit of that kind of boozy cognac note, but I don't feel like it's quite as strong as the original one. It still definitely has a creamy sweetness in the opening, and I think the inclusion of the candied fruits definitely give it a slight invigoration of that original kind of DNA. I feel like I'm getting a candied kind of cherry or some sort of kind of cherry vibe in here that smells really interesting, especially when combined with the ginger and that kind of cardamom. So I think that is really, really interesting on the opening. opening. You also get quite a bit of that coffee. It's more of a roasted coffee, so it's not the most realistic smelling coffee. It smells a little bit similar to something like Bath and Body Works coffee and whiskey. So I think it's a little bit similar to that in the fact that it's a bit boozy. It shares some of that kind of roasted coffee with a little bit of that kind of creamy woodiness, but I think this definitely smells better. It's also kind of interesting because they do tone down the coconuttiness in the opening, because I remember that was one of the things that turned me off of the original Lattafa Khamrah. I really enjoyed that kind of overall smell, but I think that the white florals and the coconuttiness just wasn't my kind of style, at least a year ago when I first reviewed it, but I've since come around and I actually wore it as my scent of the day today before I got this one. But I think here it definitely tones down a little bit of that kind of coconutty creaminess, and it does smell a little bit more white floral. So I think that's definitely a really interesting kind of direction that they went with this one. So on your skin, a little bit after the opening kind of dries down, as it kind of settles down, I think you get a lot more of the vanilla and the praline. So the vanilla comes off very powdery. It's a little bit chocolatey like, especially with the kind of coffee in there, but I think it smells very sweet gourmand, and it's not quite as dense and heavy as it is when you spray it in the air. So as this kind of dries down, I noticed something that Ash from GentSense pointed out. He mentioned that it sort of has a peekaboo effect to the coffee note. So depending on what situation you're in, you will get little wafts of that coffee coming up to your nose, and then sometimes it'll disappear and you'll smell more vanilla. So it'll go away, it'll come back, and I think as the fragrance kind of transforms, the different notes almost take a little bit more of a forefront and kind of step on its toes, but as they dissipate, you can still kind of smell that coffee start to come out. So that's a little bit of an interesting effect. But still, when you do get that coffee, it smells really sexy, it's sweet, it's definitely boozy, and kind of retains some of that cognac in there. But I also feel like I get a hint of clove in here. So you have that ginger sweetness, the cardamom, and the clove in here. So a little bit fall-like. So it definitely has those dark winter spices that remind me of the holiday season. So this might be perfect for this upcoming kind of Christmas winter season. So as I kind of smell this, I wish that the praline stuck around a little bit more. They do smell a little bit juicier in the opening, but as it dries down onto your skin, it becomes more of a dark kind of roasted praline and coffee. So it definitely does kind of follow the note breakdown, but I think it still smells really interesting, and I do have to say it smells really, really good. In terms of longevity, this stuff lasts well over the 12-hour mark, so you're looking at 14, maybe 16 hours, and for the first 4 or 5 hours, it really does go strong. And so it's a slow burn, so it's very strong in the opening, and as it kind of dries down, it still is very kind of loud, but it does it and it sort of eases into the dry down. So it's not going to be something that's like super loud and then dies down immediately like some cheaper designer fragrances. This is not like that. This is in a league of its own. Now the question you're probably all asking yourself is, do I pay the $50, $60 price tag on this if I already own the original Lattafa Khamrah? And I gotta say, you ready? No. I originally told myself no, but the more that I smell this, I want to say yes. So in the first few hours of smelling the fragrance and actually wearing it on my skin, I think it smells really close, but again, like I said, it has a lot more ginger and more coffee. But in the dry down, I actually originally recorded this video and said it's not worth it, don't pick it up if you have the original Lattafa Khamrah. But after giving it a little bit more time, and as I was actually editing this video, I changed my mind. I know, I sound wishy-washy, but I changed my mind. It is far more vanillic and coffee heavy in the dry down. Give it several hours to kind of settle down on your skin, because if you love a super dose of vanilla, I think at least with my formulation that I have, I don't know if the batches are any different or if it kind of changes as they macerate a little bit, but at least with my bottle, I get a super dose of vanilla and kind of chocolate. So in that dry down, I think it smells absolutely heavenly. And maybe if you are a woman and you want something a little bit more kind of decadent and vanillic, I think this is a wonderful twist on that DNA. So I originally said no, but I kind of changed my mind because I started falling in love with it the more that I smelled it kind of wafting up to my nose. So is it worth it? I'd say yes if you don't already have the original Lattafa Khamrah, and if you really love vanilla and coffee, I think you should get it. But if you're not a huge fan of super sweet fragrances and super kind of decadent stuff, maybe pass on it. I don't think it's really worth it, at least right now, to pay the $60 price tag, because these are really hard to find, especially because people are buying them up like crazy because it's brand new. and people are selling these on eBay for $130. Don't pay that $130. If you check fragrancebuy.ca, you can find it like I did for about 35 bucks. They pop in and out of stock, but you gotta just check it maybe every day or a couple days and sign up for those email notifications. So I think at that $35 price tag, I'm very happy with this because I've been loving that Lattafa Khamrah fragrance DNA, but I think this does it in a nice, unique twist. So if you don't have the original Lattafa Khamrah, maybe pick this one up instead because the inclusion of that ginger in the coffee is very, very pleasing. It's perfect for this winter, kind of colder weather area. If you have the original Lattafa Khamrah, if you wear that and maybe layer it with something that has a little bit of coffee in it, I think you might get about this same exact fragrance. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. And if you were new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing because I love making fragrance related content and you guys have been awesome, especially with my last video. It reached almost 3,000 views in under a week and that's absolutely huge for me. So thank you so much for tuning into that one and for this video. And if you're a regular, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I hope you all have a fantastic week. My name is Eli with Common Sense and until the next time, bye-bye. Lattafa Khamrah Qahwa.